So, hello everybody, I'm back. This is still in Country Vietnam. This is still the TET offensive. It's 1968 and this is the second week of March. As you may know, and I tried to explain it in my last video, during the TET offensive what happened was that the North Vietnamese army and the Viet Cong launched an offensive against the United States and Allied forces. Basically, I have been trying to protect the assets of the United States and Allied forces, and I've been doing quite well. And I have also managed to take almost everything up here, up north, south of the North Vietnamese border, up here. It was a taking and retaking of a couple of communist centers. This one was in the hands of the American forces, and I was able to take it back. I've definitely secured Khe Sanh. I was going to try and fight for Hue, which is up here, but that's almost impossible. I have lost plenty of forces, as you can see up here. I will be getting these as refits. I'm going to get 5 units as refits over the next 3 turns. On the March the 2nd turn, nobody gets anything, and the only additional resources that will be coming in, reinforcements that will be coming in, will be for the Vietnamese player, but unfortunately this is turning into a complete disaster, and I think the reason is mainly, and I'm going to show you this here, the reason is these 2 stacks here. These are the American and Allied attacking airstrike forces. These are the ones that have been used on the turn of the communist player. And here you can see the ones that have been in play but were shot down due to anti-aircraft. These have had a devastating effect. In general, as I've pointed out, the United States forces are much more powerful in terms of strength points than the ground units of the North Vietnamese Viet Cong players. And in addition, whenever there is, except for turn 1, whenever the communists want to attack, the United States and Allies get the possibility of bombarding the attacking forces. And due to the fact that they are so much less powerful, you usually have to gang up on the Americans. But there's a limit as to how many units you can involve in an attack. And that is controlled or directed by the so-called command control chart. So as you can see here, we're in 1986. And the US and the Free World Allies have a level of 6, the ARVN, level of 4, Cambodia, well, they don't count because we don't have them at the moment. NVA is 5 and Viet Cong is 6. Now, whenever you combine forces of, let's say, the Viet Cong and the NVA, or the US and the ARVN, you always have to choose the lower C2. So basically, both the Americans, if they are united with ARVN, which they usually are, can only attack with 4 units, whereas the Viet Cong NVA can attack with a maximum of 5 units. Or 6, but usually you don't have enough to go round of the Viet Cong, and also the Viet Cong are usually quite weak, so it's probably in 99% of the cases better to combine them with MVA. So you have the, let's just look at this here. Let's just look at the map here. You have this particular hex here, which used to be a communist stronghold. It's now been taken by these two American forces. They moved in with a strength of 6 against this hex, which contained a garrison and contained some units, or maybe only one, depends, because the units, the communist units are very thinly spread on the ground. There's a fire base here, which will shift all of the attacks of the Allies in the United States one column to the right. So basically, being in this particular communist center would bring a 2-column left shift for the communist player. One of these column shifts is negated by this fire base. And then when you bring in these guys here, this stack accounts for 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 attack points on the bombardment table. You get a -2 column shift because they are in a communist center, which still means you're attacking with a strength of 6. And on an attack strength of 6, the first, if you roll a 1, 2, 4, only the defender takes hits. And on a 5 and 6, the defender still is suppressed, which means they will be halved in their defense value. And on a roll of 6, you lose one of your attacking aircraft, and on a roll of 5, you lose one of your attacking helicopters if you have one. So basically, once all of this has been done, usually these guys in here are no match for any attacking Allied forces. And I've seen this everywhere. I try to also use the tactics of enveloping the enemy, which basically for the Vietnamese player doesn't work at all. Enveloping means if you can position your troops in such a way that there are zones of control around the hex that you're attacking. So basically this one would have a zone of control here. Well, yeah, it would have a zone of control here and a zone of control here. This one would have a zone of control here and here. These are enveloped. Works very well for the United States and Allied forces. It doesn't usually work for the communists, because with air bombardment, as soon as the units are suppressed that have been attacked, they don't have a zone of control anymore. So enveloping usually doesn't work. Enveloping gives you a +1 shift for the attacking forces. So I have been burning through communists. I have also been unlucky with refitting rolls, because as I said, when you want to refit eliminated units, what you have to do is you have to first of all pay points. And with regard to victory points, the United States are basically completely running away. I've stopped scoring because I have spent so much on refitting for the communist forces that they are close to 0 at this stage. The United States get quite a lot of reinforcement, so refitting isn't actually important for them. Refitting isn't important for them. And then you have to roll on which turn they come in. I've rolled a couple of turns which were later than the end of the scenario, so they are gone. And I've also managed to permanently eliminate, I think, 5 units on a roll of 1 and 2. So not really going too well for the communist player. And we are now on the 3rd to last turn. It's the United States player. The United States are now, actually, it's their job to basically hold their positions. The positions that are important are any that have points, so cities, and it's really at this stage something that I also found that is probably a little bit different in this game than it is in Tonkin. since there are no objectives except for making as many victory points as possible, and you get those by capturing enemy hexes, once you are ensconced in an enemy hex, you don't have to do anything. You can just basically sit there, because usually you're in a stronghold and you will be fine. So the United States player is now basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ensure that all of the hexes that are mine already stay mine by putting in enough firepower and making sure that I will not be attacked and nothing will be taken. So for example, over here I would be looking at heavily fortifying Saigon. So Saigon is over here. So what I now need to do is I need to make sure that nobody ever enters Saigon and can take it. So Saigon has two units in each of its, one unit in each of its hexes, as well as a garrison. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to move this unit in there, 1, 2. So here, if you're attacking this, you're attacking a strength of 6 for a -2 column shift, because this is a city. You will not be able to envelop it. I'm going to move these in here as well, because they're only basically sitting there. They were sitting basically in the middle of nowhere. So this means this is heavily fortified. It's going to be really difficult to capture this, because here I've got fire bases. Fire bases add a +1 column shift to defense. There's one here. This is a 12 force 12 unit on a +1 garrison, and a +2 +3 column shift to the right. So these are essentially unassailable. You can try and attack them, and if you're really, really lucky, and it happened to me that I beat a unit with strength 12 and 3 suppressed attackers for a strength of, I think we came out at 1-to-1 all told, but I got an ambush result on a roll of 2. And it meant that this one unit, the enemy unit, was eliminated, but that was pure chance. I mean, I suppose that this is quite good, because this is probably how it happened in real life as well. If you're really, 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 really lucky, and you make a lucky shot, then you can win even against all the odds. But now the American player really has to make sure that his, or in this case, her ducks are all in a row, but not sitting ducks for the Viet Minh player, the Viet Cong player in the next round to take them. But it looks very bad anyway for the communists. I mean, when you look at this, it looks great, 3 units, but they only count for 4. So actually making a sortie and attacking this would be suicide. You're not going to win. So the American player has now moved the units in such a way that she's happy with the result, and this is the end of this turn. Now the communists would go, and the Americans would get all of their firepower back, and they really dominate the air, and that is a huge benefit to them, which means that they can basically take out plenty of forces to begin with, especially when they are in hexes that are plain, because then you don't get any defense from air attacks, so no column shifts in your favor. So I don't even know if I'm going to continue playing this, because it's, even from a victory point position, it's impossible for the communists to win. But still, it's a very good game. I enjoy it. I think what sometimes is a bit irksome is you spend quite a lot of time on setting it up, and you have all of these lovely pieces, but most of them actually don't even enter into the game. Because, for example, you have your forces in Cambodia. In order to make sure that the American player doesn't get victory points at the end of each round for not having any combatants in Cambodia or in Laos. So you basically put some troops in there, but they're basically just standing there, because as soon as you move them out during the victory point phase, the American player would get victory points for there being no forces in there, but they're basically dead, you know. So this is really where I have to say this is a little bit gamey, because the Americans wouldn't really be doing very much in there, you know. Even to get to these victory hexes where they could get some points would take them quite a long time, and you could easily catch them out there, you know. But it's a victory condition that whenever there are no fighting forces in Cambodia or Laos that belong to the communist player, then the Americans get points. So you put these guys in there, but they basically just sit there. So you have a lot of troops and a lot of areas where people just sit there, you know. And in this case, I think it feels less dynamic, for example, than Tonkin. Granted, there were hexes where you just put in the troops and they basically sat there because they are too strong to be attacked by the communist player, and they have no strategic value because, you know, they have a very low point value, so you won't even go there. But here it's just more units that you have to place, and yeah, it sometimes feels, why am I spending an hour or 90 minutes to set this up if half the units that I have are not going to be engaged, because you won't be attacking them because they are too strong, so you don't attack them, but you're also not going to move them because they're there to keep these hexes safe, you know. But I guess, you know, this is the nature of a strategic game as opposed to a tactical game. So yeah, I mean, this is in Country Vietnam for a game that is probably $25 because it comes with a magazine. I think it's a good game. It's definitely more enjoyable than Citadel, and there is something in this game that I will probably try and revisit if I ever revisit Citadel. I still haven't given up on the game, and that is something that I want to draw your attention to, and that is this bombardment table down here, because this bombardment table is used for the air assaults. And it's actually a very, very neat way of modeling air assaults, because I was telling you how in the other, in Citadel, the rules were kind of really complicated. It was actually quite annoying. Here, you just use this. Things like the weather and stuff are factored in. They don't play any role except for when you reach monsoon season. And you could even say that, well, in Tonkin, seeing as it's in May, June, there would have been monsoon anyway. So basically you could use this to possibly get around a lot of the stuff that happens in Citadel with the air attacks, which I thought was actually a little bit over the top. So this might be one way of doing it less annoyingly. Again, it plays fast. There is a lot of dice rolling, but it doesn't feel annoying. So yes, I can recommend this game if you want a strategic game about the American war effort in the United States, in Vietnam, and you don't want to spend a lot of money on it, and I don't even know if there are any other games of this scale out there. And I can really recommend it. The rules are well written. There are some things which I'm not clear on. There are some errata on Board Game Geek, but like I said, it's easy to pick up. And if you have a big enough table, then yeah, go for this game. And thanks for listening.